Happy Monday. How we doing? Got me doing the salsa. That's strange. I want to see Corey do some salsa. Yeah, so funny enough, I actually had a whole other vibe of music for today. But I think yesterday night's queued playlist was still running. So we ended up going totally puro español. So we were vibing. I think you guys got a little bit of corridos tumbados. So cool. All right, let's see here. So it's Monday. We got a whole week of setups ahead of us. We got a whole week of seeing the market unfold. There's a chance that we see. I have a weird feeling we're going to get some all-time highs on crypto. I got just this sensation. But maybe that's a little aggressive. We'll see. All right, let me put this up here a little more. One sec. Hola, hola. Ok, ¿qué tal, chicos? Cuéntenme aquí toda mi gente, desde donde se me conectan. So we got Duvan, Puccini here. A little bit of everywhere from what I can see. We got Emmanuel, Sen, Patrick, Corey, Seth. So we got the U.S., West Coast, Southwest, Chicago, Jose Escalona, Pablo Gomez, Mexico. I see we have Carolina. What's good? Jack Sims, Omar, Puerto Rico en la casa, Portugal, Liliana, Joe Ryan. Welcome in, everyone. Welcome in. Got Carlos, Omar, Michael. Got the East Coast in here. Friso, Argentina, Germany. Harshi, Grand Rising Trade Topia. What's up, Vaughn? Brandon Kinder. Otro pedo. These guys are funny. Edgar Samuel desde Mérida, Yucatán. Ray Waterfalls, probably somewhere in a waterfall right now. Kenneth, Dario, Mylen. My Spotify playlist go hard. I do pride myself in my Spotify playlist, for sure. What's up, Chris? What's up, Kehaulani? Patricia is de Colombia. Kevin Arroyo, Manchester. Rodrigo, ¿qué tal? All right. So we got Belgium, London, New Mexico, South Carolina. Everyone's in here. San Diego, Colombia. Hello, Linda. Okay. So we've gotten a really, really bullish start to the morning. We'll go ahead and, let's see, switch things over to here. Yeah, extremely bullish. On the crypto side, some of these base memes are erupting. So for those of you that are familiar with Base, just one of the networks. So Base, KeyCat, so a lot of these are getting a lot of traction. FIDA starting to push pretty heavy, almost doubled in the last 3 days. They're going to do an airdrop, I think, tomorrow or something. So that, they're seeing a whole bunch of things. So crypto markets are definitely picking up. XRP, another 11%. It's just sending it right now, fully just losing it. So I think we'll probably see this come around 275, 280, maybe before it slows down today. So we got a lot of movement here. Caspa also erupting. I know a lot of you got Caspa in your bag, so you're probably feeling pretty good after being down significantly just a month ago. So those of you investing in just a month ago, you guys are up a bit. I'm not going to do too much on crypto. Maybe at the end, I'll go into it a little more. But definitely seeing just an eruption. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because this does align with the indices markets. So we're seeing a lot of alignment with these markets overall. We're seeing Dow Jones approaching the zone that it originally sold off from. So where it all started, where it all began, this entire meltdown, April 2nd, So about, 5 weeks ago, almost 6 weeks ago. Yeah. So we got, what's up, El Salvador, Cesar, Costa Rica, what's up, Matt? So we got a lot going on, and indices are finally coming back to this level. So if we zoom out a little bit more, we're kind of getting back to this zone that we were in before the market started to distribute some more. So reaching back to this, instead of the market, stock market was down about, at least Dow Jones is down almost 20%. Now from highs, Dow Jones is down like 6%, 6 and change. So you're going to see how things are evolving here. The narrative on the fundamentals, news, etc. Over here, we had a lot of negativity. Economy's going to die. Everyone's going to be in some sort of apocalyptic state. And then now, el traductor no me deja activarlo porque como estamos operando en vivo, el tiempo es muy corto para que no tengamos tanta... para que no se trate cuando hablo y cuando se está dando. Entonces, cuando está muy rápido, no me deja prenderlo. But basically, entonces, básicamente estamos recuperando con los índices. Y yo les voy a dar la traducción cuando pueda aquí en los momentos claves. Los subtítulos en español. Pues estamos en vivo, entonces como, no sé cómo decírtelo de otra manera, pero no. Básicamente no se puede prender a la velocidad que queremos que se dé la transmisión. So now that the market has approached this area, I am looking for sells over here. So I do want to see the market. I want to be in a sell at some point in here. And if we compare this to NASDAQ, si comparamos esto a NASDAQ, we can tell like we're way beyond any of this structure. In fact, NASDAQ is now approaching prices from March. So price action is so different. With NAS, the drop has not been, we've just climbed out of this imbalance so much more. So if we look at the all-time highs from NASDAQ over here, down to this level, we're still the same thing. It's basically 6%. Imagine having sold off your portfolio, your 401k or whatever, because you just panicked when the market was over here. So all of this solid. Now getting into the details. Having a bit more information here. We've seen this really, during London session, we absolutely just went insane. Anyone here, was anyone here trading London session by any chance? Let me know. So yeah, London session was going nuts. So funny enough, after all of this, after what we just saw, Goldman Sachs is saying a recession likely means stocks have further to fall. Yeah. So basically, we're seeing, futures are going crazy. NASDAQ up 4%, S&P up 3%. Trump here in China, they're announcing a deal in Geneva. So there's just a lot more bullish sentiment around everything. We saw Bitcoin break 105 earlier. So because of what we saw happen about 6 hours ago, we're going to see a lot more volatility, and this at some point will probably rebalance. So we'll probably at some point get back down to here, play out of this structure. We saw the week open right here. Opened right over here. The market hasn't filled this gap either. This just broke all the way through this zone. Didn't activate our buys. So our buys from week after week here kept, Dow hit off the open here, off of FOMC. And if you guys have noticed, and we talked about this during the FOMC session, FOMC tends to be a catalyst for price. So we literally had FOMC, and that was the low. And now we're up, 1,400 points from this moment. So how do we deal with trading when there's so many imbalances? There's not a lot of opportunity here. Like, you don't really see the textbook entry. No tenemos aquí la oportunidad aquí clásica que buscamos nos está presentando. So we're not seeing this type of setup. We have to be really mindful of how we're going to go about trading within the zone. So, for example, we just saw with Dow a push below. This goes below for a few like an hour's worth of support. Sweeps below. We get a quick move to the upside, but then we quickly come back down. So here I absolutely understand maybe not fully committing to a buy at this area. However, since we're going with the trend, I'm sure some of you are still pulling the trigger, but something like this. I'm going to wait. And I'm going to take a look at NAS. NAS has been sideways. So you look at NASDAQ here, and it's just moving sideways. All it's doing is creating more and more versions of just a buildup of retail buys. So I don't necessarily want to be involved in buys yet. I want us to have a buying opportunity, but let's kind of see it play out. Let's see it sweep liquidity. Let's get to clear zones before just making decisions. Because at the end of the day, we don't have higher highs at the moment, and we don't have a price where we would see the exchange from sellers to buyers, because that's what we want to see right now. We did get this move right there. So this is really the only thing. And even then, I would say this would have been a premature setup anyways. So the big thing is, if we're going to keep taking this move to the upside, totally get it, but we need more information. And then the second thing that we're looking for is some sort of proof to take a position on a sell. So if you wanted to sell something, then the only other thing that we could really be looking at is, we know we're in a zone here where the market can reverse. Somewhere in this zone is where the market could mitigate. We haven't seen price in this April 2nd zone. We haven't been here in forever. So where could the market look to reverse? Now, right now, we've seen a bit of support in the past at 42,400. So always a possibility we get something over here. Otherwise, we might just keep climbing a little bit higher. Like the peak over here is 42,830, give or take. So we could definitely see the market come back up to this zone. Look at where we've seen reversals in the past. This was sitting at 42,650, 42,650. All around this area, we've seen reversals before. So if you wanted to just kind of let the market ride and, let's say, take a higher time frame opportunity, then you could be looking at something like this and taking a trade, let's say, up here, not trading out of the small time frames, but trading out of the higher time frames. A trade like this could give a decent risk reward. Assuming it's going to fill some of this imbalance, then you're looking at maybe a 4 RR. And then even if you just wanted to take this kind of into the zone that we have right now, I'd say that there's still a very good chance of taking a conservative 2.5 risk reward in this zone. So do I think this trade is worth it just by letting it retrace relatively deeply? Yeah, for sure. And if we see this, we'll probably be seeing the rest of these markets also do a nice flip as well. So And I want to give you guys a perspective because sometimes we get some clues looking at kind of just seeing what Bitcoin's doing, because Bitcoin's been playing out of the zone for a while. And the next target that I see for Bitcoin here, at least maybe before it might slow down before the all-time high, but everything else is efficient other than I think just about these highs over here. So sweeping 107. So from this zone, we already came back to January 31st price action. And I think we can push it a little bit further. And we actually just traded out of this area that I had marked up. And it literally just tagged it at 105, 750, and then just dropped. So this is what Bitcoin looks like. Considering we have New York open in less than a minute, we're going to start to get a much better, like a clear visual on what to expect out of indices. So this, I'm going to wait and take a position if we get all the way over here. However, important to notice, we're still about 300 points away from that zone. Still 300 points away from there. So let's see what this wants to go ahead and do. All right, New York open is underway. With everything that we just saw happen over London session, Asian session, this should be relatively volatile. We're seeing NAS work its way down. It looks like it's targeting the liquidity from here off the rip. So we might just be pushing down into this imbalance here. And then where does that leave Dow? So then we see Dow Jones is a lot more slow, slowly working its way to these areas as well. Look at that. So as we see this unfold, you might be asking yourself, so then should we take a position somewhere in this imbalance? Does that make sense? Now, I don't personally trade just imbalances for the sake of trading imbalances. That's not really my style. So I wouldn't. But to help you organize your thoughts, and if I was going to take a buy, it wouldn't be with NAS. NAS is a free fall right now. Whereas Dow is a little bit more mellow in its drop. It's having a much harder time. So if I was ever going to take a buy position, it wouldn't be with NAS. It would be with Dow. The thing is, where are you going to press the buy button here? For me, I don't have enough. I don't see where the exchange of money would come from. Like, yes, right here, the market just goes in one direction. So maybe just rebalancing, maybe you'd get something there. But other than that, like, there's not enough information. So let me see here. Okay. So even then, like, we're seeing Dow kind of swept a little bit, then started to push down. You compare this to NAS, just bleeding out. Question is, how far will it go? Yeah, really the last move that we saw was the beginning of this drop, like 230. The market starts to just melt away, go into this zone before kind of struggling to keep these highs and trade up here. Now, we did trade above this structure for about 2.5 hours. That would be the only case. Is like, okay, we're going to basically exchange this huge sell-off over here. Somewhere over here is probably the best case that we can see. NAS starting to lose some steam after rejecting off of this level. But how do you guys see it? How do you look at indices, how do you want to approach this? ¿Qué tal, Gonzalo? Overnight London session 1-3 NDZ. Well done, well done. Buenos días. So, as much as I would want to, and this is a big part of, I guess, being disciplined to your plan, we see moments like this where all of a sudden it's New York Open, it's super volatile, the market's starting to move, and you want to be involved because there's volatility. I think what distinguishes someone that has discipline as a trader and someone that's, just kind of pretty impulsive is saying no to just your assumptions, saying no to what you're guessing, so that you can just kind of keep your risk reward intact. You can keep the profitability of your system working. Because if you go through your journal and you look, how often do I kind of just deviate? How often do I go into my own just mind? And I start to feel FOMO because the market's moving and you're thinking, oh, I wonder if someone else is taking advantage of this. And guess what? Someone else did. Okay. But are you here to play someone else's game or are you here to play yours? So, I don't know. I have a lot of peace in just being fine with not taking this one. Because at some point, I'm going to be in another position and maybe, there's going to be so many other people that didn't take that one either. So don't get too caught up in the moment or missing out on just, a couple 100 points. Like, this is going to be moving all day. And maybe a totally different scenario presents itself that we can take advantage of. So it's the beginning of the week. I think there's really nothing to be too anxious about, too impatient about. Just let the market do its thing. I feel like NQ will crack London high before we work our way down. Maybe, yeah. If looking at how this is moving right now, I would feel pretty confident that as of right now, it looks like we're probably going to get in Dow to keep pushing higher. Like at some point, maybe it goes down further, but Dow definitely has a lot more going for it. Like a lot more bullishness. It's barely pulled back versus NQ that's done this huge drop and it's trading at the low, the London session low. Well, actually, London session low was like right over here, but this secondary low. On CFDs, US30 is higher in that zone. I took the sell from that. Okay, cool. Yeah, I mean, for me, well, not even for me, just factually, you have to remember CFDs pulls information from futures, right? So the question becomes, I guess we want to move on over because there is a difference that's true. And it's that, what's the contract that we're trading within right now? Right, so if we're trading within June's contract and we're already more bullish in the zone, could it be time to take the position? Yes or no? So I'm not necessarily in a rush. And then right now what we're seeing is, whoa, okay. So we're waiting for, now going over to majors, we got the shorts that we were waiting for. Now, for whatever reason, none of my alerts went off, so that's fantastic. Not one of my alerts went off. So we got the shorts on Australian, but we still have NZD that I think we can get back to over here. So we'll still have time to go play out of this, and we'll keep our eyes out on futures and stuff. Like, we're not done looking at this. Let me go ahead and pull this up. I'm going to keep my eyes out on futures here. But while we're waiting, we can take a look at some of these other pairs. NGD, I don't think we've still closed out any of this big buy position. We have Australian dollar that we wanted to take a buy in this zone. This triggered a few hours back. but we were also taking a look at, well, what about Euro USD? What about GBP USD? And after looking at all of the above, which has been a massive liquidity just creation for GU, but after looking at all of this, to me, we're seeing, excuse me, Australian made the most sense for the buy. Someone said, I'm in that AUD buy and break even. Amazing. So we drew this up yesterday, or not yesterday, Friday. And we said, look, we want to see how the dollar moves. And then out of these majors, what's going to reach these zones last? And we saw everything else started making lower lows while the Australian dollar just slowly worked its way in. And the sell-off here was of about a little over 16 pips. And at the moment, we've seen the market already push well over those 16, 17 pips. So if you did take this position, I did not take this. I was just asleep. But if you took this, I would have my stop loss at break even. All right, so we're seeing indices still push further down. Well, at least we're seeing NASDAQ push further down. Dow is holding it down. Yeah, and, guys, if you're... It's okay if you can't keep up with a million different charts. Like, if you're only going to focus on indices, please just focus on that. Because what you want to do is you want to put your attention on what you can actually trade consistently. Like, that's all you want to focus on. If you find yourself getting disorganized and you're just not really able to manage, your attention being in all of these different assets, then no worries. Okay, so even now we're seeing a much more bearish Nas. I wish this would have given us a better opportunity, because now we've seen NASDAQ drop for 12, 13 minutes. It's trading below these lows, but I don't feel we don't have a big buy position that we could sell off of, that we would see, okay, yeah, here's where a market would reverse. So we don't really have that. And what we're seeing is, more than anything, we're seeing Dow work all the way down to here, play out of this. Maybe Dow wants to sell from here, but considering how just this was a quick dip below and then it rallied, I'm definitely not convinced by Dow Jones for sells right now either. So I'm going to take a step back from indices, at least for now, until there's just further detail here, okay? That's my approach for this. Australian, if you are looking to take this, I think you can work this all the way up to at least 0.6430. So I think you'll be good at that level with 0.6430. See this, ride it out. Now, you saw London session have that huge spike to the upside. If you want to get the cleanest data, then you can look at futures. So you see Australian futures sweep the highs, come crashing down. At the moment, we're seeing AUD kind of slow down. The pullback is really minimal. You look at NZD USD, similar situation here. Still never got up to here, but we did see that London session spike to the upside. So clean sweep of these highs. Captura liquidez aquí. Mercado cae. However, if you notice something, the price action, like right now, the current price action, we're actually seeing NZD USD come to the upside a lot faster. So it's almost at this 38.2. Whereas if you look at Australian, the pullback is so mellow. So as of right now, I would rather take a sell on Australian over New Zealand, but we'd have to wait for a pullback still. Now that's that. Euro, similar situation, sweep to the upside. This does not look anywhere near as good, just considering it doesn't really sweep a lot of liquidity. And then GBP USD, similar movement, takes the highs, then drops, but it's been recovering so well during London session. So now, looking at all the setups and seeing like, yo, all these look really similar. If I were to make a choice at the moment, it actually would be Australian that I would want to, take on for a short here. And you see a pump, drop, pump again, then drop. So somewhere in this resistance, I'm definitely leaning more for the sells. Because this was already pretty efficient, I'd actually have a tighter stop. You see how it pulled up right away? This rebalanced all of this and then came back down again. So at the moment, I'm leaning more towards shorting in this area with the stop above this high right there. And then just kind of letting this thing ride. 3.5R. So this looks cleanest to me. And however, like, things can change as the market, just as the day goes by, the sessions go by. You might see Australian starts to pick up more or back down. So always keep the rest of them in mind. But for now, this looks like to be the cleanest setup. Sorry, let me start to write this out. So we got our Tritopia ideas here. May 12th, 2025. So AUD USD. So, which is similar. I mean, it's basically 6A. Let's say the majors look relatively similar. AUD USD at the moment is lagging behind and struggling to rise in price compared to the rest of the USD pairs. This could change, so stay on top of it. Okay. We'll keep adding to this. All right, now coming back to Dow. We saw it drop from those highs. We're seeing now NQ get below that second low from London session. Obviously, here's where things kicked off. So there is quite a lot that could still go down. And then as we look at Dow, it held up over here. It did drop. I mean, I'm sure some of you actually took this. I was okay without being involved in this trade. I was totally cool. Just because we had Dow was more than anything the most bullish. So a lot of times you'll see a setup like this, which, sweeps liquidity, gives us briefly, like literally for like 3 minutes, lower lows, and then comes back up. You see these types fail a lot, especially considering that NASDAQ was already more bearish than the rest. So I'm okay with, I'll leave these on the table all the time because they break through more often than they work out. So I'm okay with that. All right. Now what I will do is, I know some of you probably are new to the channel. If you are new, welcome. What's up, guys? Drop a 1. Let me see where everyone that's new in here. And then I'll go ahead and share the invite link so you can guys be in the free community. come join the gang in here. All right, here we go. All right, I just pinned it so it's at the top. Welcome, everyone. Welcome in. Yo, let's hit 200 on the stream today. Is it worth paying for the enhanced futures charts for futures? The gaps every day for open and close are crazy. What gaps? What do you mean? Oh, you're saying like, because you're not getting the, it's not like a CFD's chart, but mine don't look like that though. It's probably because I paid for it. This is the weekend gap, but you don't really see that throughout the week. Throughout the week, it just cleanly keeps just, keeps going through. So you're not really going to get those gaps. If you're trading on a futures prop firm, then you don't need to pay for the chart. I would say you're just like, you already have that. So only reason I'm doing that right now is because I'm streaming here with you guys. Otherwise, I wouldn't necessarily be I wouldn't have really paid anything else here. Because the prop firm's already basically giving you the more elite futures charts. Especially, at least if you're trading like Top Step X, for example, they have like a nice software for you. Or even, I think Tradeovate as well if you have like Apex or whatever. Stop at break even. Okay, cool. What else do you guys have your eyes on? I see gold. What about gold? What I would love for you guys to do in here, and appreciate you guys. I see y'all hitting the like button. That's cool. This subscribing. Love to see new people rolling through here. Yeah, so the NZD sell that you're talking about, I prefer at the moment Australian, but it could change. Crypto, we'll get there. Gold has been tripping. Has it been? Okay, let's take a look at it. Let me zoom out. I'm going to get to gold here. Let me quickly rifle through, USD CAD and all that good stuff. We finally broke out of UCAD, and it's been just sending it. So we talked about how the markets behave once they break out of their squeeze, like you're seeing with Bitcoin right now as well. It just absolutely sends it. So we actually caught the sell from up here to April 15th on Tuesday, and that dropped for like 200 something pips. And then after we've squeezed and moved on, we're seeing this move. So at some point, I'm sure we'll pull back again, and we can see a position for a buy around under 138. But for now, USD CAD, nothing to do there. USDCHF has left an accumulation setup here and down here as well. With USDCHF, it is climbing into this April 10th price action. So really interesting in here. Might get something worth trading. Right over here. Hold on. So this is the last zone for USDCHF, where you see the market push to the upside. It clears out where we had April 9th trading, and then it just melted away. So if you're looking at price here with USDCHF, I don't know how many of you guys trade this. This is kind of this last pump before it all drops. Right over here. We've yet to really swap from the buyers that came in over here to the sellers. So all of this looks very efficient. Right over there. Okay. So those of you with your eyes on the market, particular USDCHF, here is a key zone. The market reaching 0.8532 from here. You can see this, but this has been really ripping. So I would love to be more on the buying side of this. And there's a handful of opportunities that keep presenting themselves here with USDCHF. The one that we're closest to. The one that we're closest to is this right here. We see a nice sweep. Look at this. Dollar comes in. We see a sell-off. This rebalances and then pumps. So right there. This is the key zone. And not only that, we've then traded above price action all of the full day. So this is looking decent for a buy setup soon. And there's a handful. If this just mitigates and then decides to come back down, then you have another one even lower as well. But the one that I'm focused on at the moment is this one may happen later, but it would be this one right over here. So I'm looking to be in a buy right there. And then depending on how we work our way down, this could change the exit. But since we're going with momentum, I'm more than okay taking this position, and that's a 4.86R here. So here's USDCHF. For those of you on futures, you're looking at 6S. The chart is going to be flipped, though. It's going to be the other way around. Look at this squeeze right now with Dow. Ooh, okay. This is going to lead to bigger movements here shortly. Let's go ahead and pull up the fundamentals for this week. This will give you guys a good understanding of what to expect in terms of volatility, so you're not surprised. Also, expect the unexpected this week with Trump hosting conferences, us getting more and more information on the deal with China, tariff deals. So, for example, all of this also brings us to CPI. All of this brings us to CPI as well. So what we'll do is tomorrow I'll actually be doing a special stream for CPI. So we'll be here a little earlier than usual. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna actually stream CPI a little early. So show up here. We'll take care of this. From there, we won't really have anything on Wednesday unless we get something Trump related. And then following that, we'll get PPI, which should also bring us quite a bit of volatility. And then Powell speaking 10 minutes later. So this week will be extremely volatile, and it's going to be a good time. Jocelyn asked, would you say that NAS had a change of character since it went below the previous lows to continue for sells, and the push up that it just made is a retracement? Let's see. No. And here's why. So we had, let's say structure-wise, we had higher highs, higher lows. We kind of played around with price going higher here. So very briefly, did it breach these highs? Just very briefly. And when it got below these lows, the way I qualify structure and changes of character, breaks of structure, whatever, all of this, price does not stay below here at all. It briefly gets below, sure, but then it comes right back up. Does it again, comes right back up. Does it again. So we're not even holding, there's no demand below this price right now. Price gets lower, to clear these lows. That I see. I totally understand. But does price get lower for the sake of a shift in momentum? Is price actually trading down here? Is there a need for price to be here? Not really. Price is trading higher. There's no, at least at the moment, right? And this could just go down again, and then we can get higher confirmations. But right now, when price visits 2780, 2750, these prices are unsustainable, which is why we come right back up right away. Even right now, we're coming back down to these levels. Is it going to hold these prices? Whereas Dow, look at this, Dow now is starting to push a little lower as well. So do we see a shift in momentum now? Do we see Dow go lower, and then we'll have a higher probability of understanding, yeah, maybe it is bearish, or nope, not yet. That's why you got to just allow the market to give you enough information. If you notice, something that happens all of the time is you start to see right after New York Open, right after the market gets volatile, you'll start to see the market go above or go below previous highs or previous lows. You'll start to see more movement. And then you're at the first sign of some sort of structure, or it looks like new structure, all of a sudden you want to start confirming, oh, okay, here we got below, now it's bearish, then now it just gives you more opportunity, or it gives you the idea, the illusion that there's confirmations. But in reality, price comes down and then right back up. So what's the point? If price doesn't actually stay here. Even now, we're seeing price come down. But it's not even lasting down here at all. Price doesn't look like it wants to be here. If anything, it looks like we could even buy from these zones. Now, we don't have a textbook setup for a buy either. It would be premature for sure, but the demand is just not holding super well yet. Now, if you were to get price to break here or stay here, and then we keep trading below, then for me, yeah, we would be seeing a shift in momentum. But right now, I'm not quite convinced. Right now, I'm okay with just waiting and finding out. Because you always have to remember, not being in the market is a position. Not being in the market is definitely a position. And even looking at this on the 15 second, you see the sweep. You know, the market it rebalances. We get up to here, quickly drop. So this also isn't the best sign that we're shifting momentum. And then right now we're playing out of these lows. So do we need to be in the markets? No. We could just not. We could just not. So yeah, that's how I'm approaching it. I'm chilling. No, not a big deal. USDJPY still ripping. And then gold just working its way down and down again. It gapped lower, chopped up, and then that 2 o'clock news event has just pushed the markets further and further down. And we've met these key levels of support here again. So we're just seeing a buildup of retail buyers in this zone. Massive buildup. So what do you do with this? For me, this is the same. And I think sometimes this is what helps, I guess, stay in the game more than anything, is that despite all the volatility, despite all the movement, there's going to be other entry models that you're able to trade this, and because of however those work. With mine, I need to see big positions. Like, I'm looking to be in the exchange from sellers to buyers, or buyers to sellers. Like, that's what I want to be involved in. I don't have that here. I don't have that with gold. But that's also why I look for the setup. I only have this setup way up here, and we're very far from that. So I don't trade a pair. I trade setups. And sometimes, like, for example, gold hasn't given me an entry opportunity in weeks. So I don't trade gold then, if that's going to be the case. And then there's other people where they have their pulse on gold and they trade it in a specific way, where they might be trading it every day. And that's kind of what it feels like for me with indices. Indices, usually at some point, a setup will present itself and we can take advantage. But if it doesn't, that's okay, because I know the frequency in which it plays out is pretty high, in which they show up is pretty high. Okay, so moving on from metals, which at the moment aren't really presenting too many ideas. Mexican peso. We got a double opportunity here. So, for example, this London session drop looks solid. This looks great. So now we're seeing lower lows, lower highs. We see a massive spike down. So this is what we aren't seeing with gold. The big spike that clears retail. So we see a move like this. This movement sweeps Sunday Asian session lows, gets down to here, and then now we're trading above. It's been very choppy, but we're still trading over here. So if we were to get a pullback with Mexican peso right there, yeah, I would definitely be inclined to take a position and then kind of ride this out to wherever we would see some sort of liquidity. So these are the zones in which I would definitely want to trade USD Mexican peso. All right, so we got, that's the syndicate. Don't need that. So you have that here. Now this is CFDs, right? So if you take a look at 6M. Interesting. The plot thickens. On futures, though, looks like liquidity. And it's still just shy of a zone we have here from way back. So, because I am under the belief, and based on the information that I have, futures is going to be a more precise data feed, then I wouldn't go and go for this setup on USD Mexican. So I would stay away. I wouldn't take it because our futures looks very different. So we were looking at it here. Here we go. Looking at it here, it does look like it sweeps below, but looking at futures, it doesn't. So cool. We move on. Now Sol, cracking. Smacked 180. Sheesh. It's going crazy. ETH definitely making its move over Bitcoin consistently. Great signs of altcoin season. Right now, we're seeing NAS struggle to stay below. So this is what I was talking about. There's just not too much demand here. So this is where the market kind of does the break below. It lures in sellers. And then here did it again. But to me, this is not sustainable. It's not confirming sells. I feel like we could still wick down maybe one more time because Dow Jones is like super bearish. Or not super bearish, it's super choppy. It's super indecisive Whereas NAS is now starting to flip its role more to the upside. We can see that Dow is still in between. So I wouldn't be surprised if we get a push down here with Dow Jones. And then maybe we get another push down with NAS, and then it rips. The problem is I don't have a setup. And then S&P 500 hasn't made any lows either, and definitely not giving any setups. So are you not going to take that Dow sell? Which one? The one way up here? Why not? Yeah, I'll still take the sell. It just depends on how the market shows up. If we get up here and Dow is slowly working its way higher, then I'll take this. But we're not over here yet. What made you say that I would not take the Dow sell? After months, I can look at my crypto portfolio without crying. I guess you can't spell crypto without cry. Yo, how have I never heard that before? Facts. That's so funny. Yeah, I do like to sell with Dow up here. This is the higher time frame position. So let me go ahead and share this one too. You can't spell crypto without crime. Y'all battled it out though. So you guys came out on top. You stayed the plan. You accumulated more when you were supposed to, and now you get to rejoice. Well, kind of. You really don't get to rejoice until you're paid, but that's how it goes. So yeah, at the moment, with all the market squeezing, this is just a toss up for Dow, and then NAS, same thing. So anyways, that basically gives us a full circle moment. Like we've gone through everything except for, I think, oil. So I'm going to do a deeper dive into crypto today, here right now, while we do some other while like the markets are just kind of being boring. So let me pull up oil real quick. Just want to take a look at what it's doing. Still pushing higher and higher and higher. And this is approaching an area that I have been waiting for here for a bit. Here we go. I wanted to short in here a couple weeks back. See the market take the highs. It got pretty choppy up here, so I don't love it per se because it made liquidity up in this zone. I'm more so watching oil instead of taking it. I'm not going to share this idea. The player trader, since NQ sold off aggressive right at the beginning, do you think now is just chilling or chasing a bit before another move down? It's possible. It's possible, but because I didn't get any confirmation of lower lows, then no. That's like my system is really black and white. I need there to be demand below the lows for it to be a lower low. And for this to be bearish, I need demand below here. We didn't get that. So, no, I wouldn't just sell up here or anything like that. I won't. You can, but that's not me. But yeah, I mean, feel free. If that's how you see it, then trade exactly what your plan looks like. But nah, I'm good on that. The market overall is still bullish anyways, so I'm okay. Even with, for example, like look at Bitcoin and how it's been squeezing and moving sideways. It had this pump here. That London session move took it right to 105, like 800. And then we lost this momentum. But then we didn't get lower lows again. So what we end up seeing is Bitcoin just has an absurd amount of liquidity here at the moment. At some point, I do think we're going to probably have like a big flush just to rally again. But I'm not doing anything margin-wise, like day trading-wise. Still not doing anything with Bitcoin either. The reversal already happened. From here, we can see it keep going. What I want to give you guys an update on is the overall market caps and then the Bitcoin dominance side of things. So check this out. Since for the last few years, right, one of the things that we've been keeping our eyes on is Bitcoin dominance and seeing when is this going to flip? And we almost had it. So before, when we had that nice like altcoin kind of run, the crypto just went crazy. When Bitcoin went and hit like 109 and change, was when Bitcoin dominance was melting, just absolutely melting through. Crypto was bullish, but at the same time, alts just started to go berserk. So we saw that. And it looked like, okay, we have a shift on the daily time frame. We had higher highs, higher lows, higher highs, and we broke below this low. The problem was that this didn't have enough demand. So we broke below, but then when it came back to, and I want you guys to look at this, when the dominance is crashing here, all it was doing really in a way was, you can't say it was sweeping liquidity because it's just a dominance chart, but the psychology behind it was luring people into thinking that the dominance was done for good. But what happened is that the dominance basically rebalanced and the market kept climbing. So this dropped again to create the idea that this is bearish and that, alts are going to keep pushing. But once we saw something like this, once we saw the dominance climb right up right away, pull back, play off of this previous level, was point of supply, then they started ripping. So this was almost the indication like, nope, we're not done yet. Still bullish. And Bitcoin dominance came back and has approached levels from January 2021, December 2020. And from this zone, now we're at a point again where we're contemplating, are we finally flipping? Are we going to flip this on its head? Are we going to go bearish and stay bearish? So right now, I'm not surprised that we're seeing such a huge move. Bitcoin dominance is basically rebalancing March. So it's just working its way lower and lower and lower just to get to here, minimum. We could still even push even further. But what I want you guys to note is this. When we had Bitcoin dominance and all of this going down in Henry, yeah, shoot me a message on Instagram. Hit me up for sure. I can't use the replay. So when we're looking at this here, this drop, once we hit the peak, it really struggled to kind of mitigate and do its thing. It barely did. So I'm going to go to the daily, and then we're going to work our way back here a couple years. So give me a second. See if I can, come all the way back over here. All right. So we had our first wave of rejection over here. Here's where we got that drop in November. And then now we've worked our way up to these areas. All right, we got to these levels. What I was curious to see is if we were going to work our way up to about 67, 68% to rebalance the dominance and then tank. But if you see this, look, the dominance it starts switching momentum, pulls back. Very efficient mitigation, if you will, on the dominant side. Then it just melts away from 69% and just keeps dropping. I kind of thought we could get closer to 67, 70, 67, 50, and then start to flip. So now when we go over to here, we see dominance gets it up to 65 and change. And so if you're looking at the 4-hour chart, you can see we were climbing and climbing and climbing up until the 7th of May, which was just last Wednesday. And you get what happened here. This was FOMC, guys. FOMC was the peak of Bitcoin's dominance, and now it flipped. FOMC was the peak of Bitcoin's dominance, and then it flipped. Let's take a look at what happened here. This was Monday, December 8th. These are week to week within this week. So let's go look at FOMC or high impact news from that week. And the cool thing is we can look at interest rates here. We can look at these fundamentals. And if you go back, we go back and keep going back. You see December 16th and January 27th. So FOMC wasn't the cause of this move. But if I look at CPI, which is here, we can go back and look at CPI. And you have December 10th, January 13th. So right in between these times is when we see that big reversal and the market commits to the drop. So right now what I think we're going to see is I think this is what we're in. These are the times that we're in right now. Will we come back to close this out? Maybe, maybe not. If we do, then this is going to be your next shot at another opportunity, another entry, which is great. And if you don't, then, I mean, like, in my opinion, if you're investing and you're looking at alts, is it too late? It depends on what your sites are, right? But we can go over some cryptos here and see what makes the most sense. What are the, I guess, industries or categories that are kind of slowly moving along and which ones are already popping. But the reality is you should have been buying last month, right? Not right now. And the bigger question and the important question is, if you didn't and you want to now, why didn't you? And you need to answer this because you need to remember this. Why did you wait till now that it's looking good to buy when that's not how price moves? Like, that's not how it works, right? Why is it that? Is it because you feel more confident? Now that prices are higher again, you go, okay, now I feel confident. Now I want to be in here. Now I want to have some of these coins because now it looks like it's going up when before it wasn't. Is that why? Is it because someone else is up a ton and you're like, well, that could have been me? So you have to ask yourself that. What is your investing thesis built from? Because if you keep waiting until it's looking like the markets are looking bullish, then you probably missed the better entry, right? And to an extent, sure. I totally understand that. I totally understand waiting for there to be confirmation. But what new confirmation did you need? So was it fear that, or was it like I could probably get a better entry? And then if you're thinking, well, when Bitcoin was in the 80s, I was just waiting for a better confirmation. Or when it was in the 70s, I was waiting for a better entry. Well, then why were you buying when it was in the 90s and not buying when it was in the 70s? Now, if it's a cash flow thing, then that it is what it is. But if you were spreading yourself out, why did the fear come in when price was lower and not when the price was higher? So that's the biggest thing that I want you guys to consider, because if you don't come to those conclusions right now, you're going to make the same mistakes later. So you need to come to that conclusion. Like, why did I have no fear up here and I had fear down here? And then now, I want you guys, I mean, someone should answer this question here in the chat. I'm not asking it just so like I'm talking to myself. It's so that you really come to these realities. And the same thing, let's say it's not crypto, it's the stock market. We can pull up the stock market real quick. What about the stock market? Okay, well, if you were looking at, let's just say the big ones, let's say you're looking at something like, you know, Nvidia or Tesla or Apple, whatever, for example, like, or Coinbase, even. So like, let's say Tesla, right? Tesla's over 320 now. Gave you guys the entry here live at like 225. Multiple times, multiple opportunities. You think Tesla's going to fucking go away? That's ridiculous. So, but why was it that Tesla was so easy to buy when it was flying over 400, but then suddenly when it rebalanced fully in October and it gave you the entry of a lifetime, it was scared? Where was that? Why was there the fear there? Or Apple? Apple, we saw that spike down here. I forgot what stream we had this one. It came into our zones below 175. Was it because the news was telling you that this was the beginning of the end? Uncertainty. Then why were you dollar cost averaging and buying up here, and when you had the better prices, you didn't? And this answer is going to be a little bit different for every person. The fears, the uncertainties are rooted from different things, from different people. Maybe the fear of missing out is bigger than the fear of taking a loss. For some, yeah. For some people, the fear of missing out is bigger, so you get involved. And then it's like missing out on what, though? So here's why. And I'm going to walk you through why I think it's easier to get in at highs than lows. When the market is ripping, so we'll go back to crypto. Actually, let me know in the chat. Do you guys invest in stocks or do you guys invest in crypto? Drop it in the chat. Let me know. I think if this group, most of this group is probably under 30. So it's probably crypto is probably the answer here. Crypto only, okay? Stocks, both. Crypto for now. Crypto but open to stocks, okay? In ETFs, crypto was dollar cost averaging when the fear was hitting. Crypto and a little bit of stocks, okay? More likely crypto. So you're not in crypto yet, okay? I wanted to invest more in crypto but cash flow. That's okay. Stack now. Get your fiat, get your stable up. Crypto and stocks. Okay, so looks like we're leaning a little bit more on the crypto side. But either way, people here are building out their portfolio. You are investing, which is great. So here's why it feels this way. Because, look, I'll be honest, guys. None of this is really rational. Like, what happens here with investing most of the time is not based out of logic. It's swinging emotions. Don't understand much of stocks. Basically, the price that you see of a stock is how much it costs to own one share. And then, let's say it's $50. You now own a share of that stock. You are officially a partial owner of said company. A very, 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 very small percentage if you're getting a share. Okay, we're seeing right now liquidity being swept on Bitcoin. Same thing with NASDAQ, and I'm assuming same thing with Dow Jones. Yes, here we go. So Dow sweeping liquidity, working its way in here. If you are looking at buys because of what's happened over here, this is a push down. Then we could see a buy scenario somewhere down here, and I don't think it's a terrible trade. So is it my favorite trade? No, but you do see a big push down, and then more than likely we see the market rally from somewhere with below 42,200. I think we'll see a rally, especially because you're and I'm going to get back to my point with Bitcoin and the fear and all that stuff here in a second, but now the market's got a little interesting, so gotta adapt a little bit here. So if you notice, basically this move right there after that 2 o'clock, this pushed everything down. The market started to squeeze, and then everything went forward. Why did this just happen? That was weird. Okay. So yeah, I think we can get into kind of this area, and then you could see a buy somewhere like this. You're looking at roughly, I don't know, I'd say 100-point stop, maybe 90. I think we'd probably clear even further from there. So something like this, I think it's a possibility. It's not a textbook setup. And the reason I say it's not a textbook setup is because when we get above these highs, or after we sweep these lows, this gets pretty choppy. So it doesn't do the classic sweep, quick move up, and then it builds structure. This lures in sellers, and then it finally runs. So around this zone, I do think we have a possibility of getting a reversal, especially considering the fact that NQ now is way over here. All right, we're in the middle of filling NASDAQ imbalance, so seeing Dow reverse from this area, I think is a possibility. The only reason this looks not as great is because the market moves sideways before it finally creates the rest of the imbalance. So right around here. Okay. So here, Bitcoin sweeping these lows as well. Look at that. Swept all of Sunday, Saturday, Friday, going into Friday's price action. I wonder if we get below this zone. But already starting to kind of lose some momentum. Look at that. After Bitcoin sweeps liquidity for multiple sessions, it's now starting to do a nice little reversal here. Okay. So I like the buys on Dow. I think they're probably valid now. I think you could see some reversals right now on Dow. So something like right here. About 110-point stop. It's rebalancing in here. Could be the mitigation of this huge sell-off, which could cause this to quickly come back, and then this may turn into just kind of a smart money sell, and then maybe even create another setup in the future. Okay. Looking like a good reversal so far. Who's in this? And who decided to just stay out, which is also more than okay. Choppy es como consolidación, es cuando está sube y baja No es tan limpio el movimiento. I took a market order. Okay. I'm not in this. That's okay. Because of the liquidity sweep as well, this built my conviction for the setup a little more, because we built up so many buyers that once we started sweeping and rebalancing, and the massive difference between Dow and NAS. You see how NAS went and made lower lows, like at least in the moment, while Dow was way up in here still. Cool. I stayed out because it's not A+ for me. Amazing. Feels to me like the market wants to push lower to clear the massive candle. To this one, definitely could. Definitely could. Okay. So let me continue with, let's see. Let's go into this here. Okay. So going into my idea from earlier, here's what happens. Here's why people feel more comfortable with certain decisions rather than others. Okay. And really it has to do with momentum, in my opinion. I think the majority, like the big reason we see it'd be easier to make buys, like for example, from November to February, you had like a whole 3 to 4 months and you're just buying up and buying up and buying up. It's because you were running with the momentum. You know, you were going with this was skyrocketing. People felt good about crypto because it was going up. There was a overall positive energy around it. There was a sense of hopefulness around it. People were carrying over the profits that they're in. So you're overall way more optimistic about the market because you're coming from price going lower to higher. Now, when, for example, February, March hits, the market dumps thousands and thousands of pips and it drops tens of thousands of dollars in price. It's now going against you, right? The portfolio is going down and down and down and down, especially if you have a lot of altcoins. Then you're really like, oh, I fucked up. You're really like, I'm down 50% on a coin. I'm down 75% on a coin. It's over. So the feeling that you're receiving from your portfolio is not the same. It's the opposite. You're going from, instead of going from lows to highs, you're coming from highs to lows. But that's just one way of looking at it. Whereas if we're looking and zooming out even further, we're understanding, wait a minute, we're just coming back to the price that we were at or the market cap that we were at before everything went absolutely crazy. So when the market, like, it's just everything becoming efficient. It's the roller coaster. However, in a roller coaster, think about the roller coaster. Think about being on an actual roller coaster. As it's going up slowly, sometimes fast, but in this case, like, let's say it's climbing slowly, the anticipation is building and building and building and building. Then your stomach drops when it's absolutely tanking. So right now, the reason that this here felt scary to invest in, even though there were better prices, like you're still, depending on where you got in also, is the big deal. If you had been stacking positions since 2022, 23, 24, let's say before October in Bitcoin, then this maybe didn't feel the same way. But if you're making up for lost time, then you're like, wait, I'm going to miss this thing. So let me start, it's November. Let me just start buying more and more. then now you feel like, do I really want to add more to the losses? Do I really want to add more to this? And it doesn't feel good. But you're only going to do that if you don't get this movement. So you want to just think about this, like your psychology behind it. Or did you overinvest up here? And so, excuse me, I would say keeping reevaluating your decisions is going to help you so that in the future you have either a bit more patience, or you give yourself a bit more grace, or you spread yourself out a little bit, not even in different assets. You don't necessarily need to do that, but just have the awareness of what it is that you're doing. So this way you understand your own fear and greed, because it's going to happen. It's going to come from different reasons. Everyone gives you a certain certainty, a specific certainty, when everyone's up, like they were in December, like November, December. There's no even glimpse or that it could possibly ever go wrong. Like no one is considering even talk, because no one wants to be that person where they're like, yeah, I mean, it could drop though. Everyone's like, bro, get on the train before it leaves you. But that could have been said also at any other one of these things. So, I mean, for me, I think I always look to keep myself in, and I haven't had a perfect investing, series either. I'm not here to say that, but I always think in what we know. We know that the market, when it creates imbalances, at some point it will want to rebalance. So does that mean that I don't buy up here? No, that means that I still do. I'm not buying at, the top, but when we get the pullbacks, I'll get in here. And then was I under the impression that we could just reaccumulate and just skyrocket? I definitely thought that was a possibility, especially February 3rd, where we make a massive wick down and come right back up at this point. And then February 24th, I'm thinking, okay, we're just sweeping liquidity and we're going to rip because it doesn't want to confirm the demand over here. And so what do? I buy, and then I buy. And then it kept going further down. That's fine. Because I wasn't unloading all of my ammo hoping that, okay, finally I got lucky and then it's going to run. You're making calculated decisions. And you got to know where you are in the cycle, macro. Right now, it's not like we're in the beginning of this thing. So, yeah, anyways, that's some psychology behind, I guess, investing and just understanding your own fears and your own doubts. Okay, so Dow right now is going pretty well, right? You should be sitting at around a 1-to-1, a little over a 1-to-1 at this moment. Is rebalancing. At this point, based on the way that it's rejecting and moving on up, I think it's a good time to adjust your stop. At least I'm going to. I'm moving my stop here up to entry. Who's up on this one? So for the pullback, do you see Sol? How low do you see Sol going? Okay, so yeah, so even now, right? This is the total market cap. We've seen an explosive last week. Me on my new account. Nice, congrats. So and man, investing is there's so many nuances. It's so annoying, to be honest, because you have to just talk about so many different scenarios. As an investor, you have the choice of making however and whatever type of strategy that you want. And how many strategies that you want. So, for example, si yo moví mi stop loss a break even, chicos, con esta idea de Dow Jones. So for investing, I have a few different approaches. I have one that is an extremely conservative approach, and it's also the longest term approach that I have, which is just buying Bitcoin. That's it. Now, that's not where the majority of my money goes, but I have a daily dollar cost average on Bitcoin, like just every day. whatever. Because it's the one that I see being around 20 years from now. I can't say that with the same conviction about like really any other coin, to be honest. I don't have that same conviction with ETH. I would want to have that same conviction with Sol. I think definitely think it's a good moneymaker, and in this cycle for sure, and I think it'll continue to be around. But I know that Bitcoin is going to stick around. That's my belief. It's going to be here 10, 20, 30 years from now. So in my thought process, and I'm giving you guys, this is just some free game here, but here's how I looked at this. I was asking myself, okay, well, I could invest in the S&P because this is just a strategy. This is just a strategy. I can invest in the S&P. I can invest in whatever, right? And do that because it's going to be around for a long time. Ideally, that's what it seems like. So, and let's say that makes 10% a year. Cool. What does that look like? So in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, well, what's like a good... Let's say I want to have just an extra $1 million sitting around, and I want this to be in the most conservative way possible. So, I'm doing some math, and I'm thinking, okay, well, what's like a very conservative amount to invest initially? $1,500. Let's say you put into this, I don't know, $300 or $1,200 a month, a couple $100 a week. And let's say we're going to do this for 20 years. And this is going to do, I don't know, 11% a year over year. So I'm thinking, how do we get to $1 million here? Okay, this is a little short. So maybe it was $1,250 a month, or maybe it was $1,300. Let's see here. Nope, I need another one. Maybe it was $1,300. Or either way, you can play around with these numbers, right? Okay, so if you started with $1,500, you invested $1,300 a month, and then over the course of the next 20 years, your year over year average is 11%, then you'd have $1 million. Cool. Okay, well, how do you find the asset class to do that? This is the question. What is it going to be? Are you going to trade it? Are you going to buy Apple? Could Apple do that for you? Is it going to be the S&P? And I'm thinking, I think what has the highest chance of doing this and has the likelihood of surviving for 20 years is Bitcoin. So I'm like, all right, cool. So what are my strategies? Is just this, and that's it. And that's just a strategy. Is this everything I'm investing a month? No. But now I have something, and this is just a baseline. If I want this number to be, higher, then I change some of these numbers. But do I think Bitcoin can do 11% a year for the next 20? I think there's a really good fucking chance. So that's just one way to look at it. And that's a strategy. That's one strategy for how you invest. That's it. So you could do that more aggressively, less aggressively. You have to consider your own budget, your own finances. But that's just one plan. You don't have to have just one. You can have many. But you also have to consider, okay, how much money am I working with? How much does that diversify my attention? The reason I like this one as well is just because I don't have to do anything. I just set it up. It's automated. And then I just have to not get in the way. That's it. That's literally it. I could get fancy with it, and I could want to pull out at the highs or the lows or whatever I think that is. Sure. But if I didn't even, do I think that dollar cost averaging in, that could happen? Yeah, I think there's a pretty good chance. So anyways, that's just an option. So when you guys are doing your investment portfolios, think about, what is my conservative investment? What are my kind of medium risk? What are my high risks? Which ones of these are the ones where, okay, this one, it could fail, but if it doesn't, we're hitting a 10x. We're hitting a 100x. You want some of those too, because those are the ones that just give you a disproportional gain that, yeah, it can change the situation. But if that's all you have to also assess, what is your life going to feel like? What is it going to look like? Can you afford it? if you're really, I mean, if like you have nothing to lose, little to no responsibilities outside of yourself, especially the younger you are, then cool. I definitely get it. But I think everyone should at least have one kind of like conservative approach. That way, you know, at least even if this high risk one doesn't go well, at least we have this other one just running in the background. That's like, cool. This is at least securing, you know, some sense of, I don't know, retirement. Not that I don't, it seems like depending on where you live in the world, $1 million may not help you with retirement completely, not for a long time. But anyways, right now we are, so this is about 160 points up, give or take. So about a 1.5 R. Normal for the market to find some traffic here in all of this choppiness. We built up a lot of sellers during this time. The market swept liquidity, rebalanced here. We're currently, in my opinion, seeing this happen. So we're seeing the sell. This is turning into the buy. I think we can get still a little bit more. So yeah, this drop was about 250 points, a little more. So I think we can still keep pushing. And yeah, we can go definitely hit a 2R on this. Considering we're running with momentum, I think there's a chance that we go beyond that, but that's where we're at. That's Dow Jones. Now taking a look at NASDAQ. NASDAQ definitely not as bullish, nowhere near it. And then we still have the imbalance from over here that we could fill out. So I think we can get over to this area sometime soon. And if we break above this, then we're probably going to shoot for here. Okay. Oh, no, you guys can't see my screen. That's hilarious. Damn it. Well, basically, market go up. That's what I think. So the whole time you guys couldn't see my screen? Seriously? So while I was going over the investing calculator, you guys couldn't see my screen? I really should have got a heads up on that. Anyways, this is what I was showing you guys. That probably is why you didn't respond to what I was saying. So yeah, here's the initial investment. Here's the contribution. Here's how long it takes. Here's the interest rate. Here's, you know, what it looks like if you just do this for 20 years. So, man, that's crazy. I need to do that way less often. That happens to me at least once a week. I swear to God. Okay, so this was why I was breaking it down for you guys. You should have had a visual, but apparently not. So this was it. And this is, I mean, this is not, if you're in the US, like this is very doable. And honestly, in a lot of countries in Europe, you just have to position yourself to be able to do this. And the one thing that you have power over is your income. You have to grind it out for sure, but you can do it. And so what I did was I was just playing around with the numbers, and then I'm like, 11%. What has the best chance of doing that over the course of the next 20 years and is likely like the highest probability? And I'm like, yeah, Bitcoin seems like it's got a good shot. Do I think other coins could do it too? For sure. For sure. For the next 4 years? Yeah. For 20? I'm like, all right, Bitcoin seems it. But anyways, yeah, guys, I'll leave you all at that. We have Dow that's still climbing here. Once it cracks, let's see, what's a 2R here? Once it cracks 42,416, that would put this at a 2R. I do believe this is going to keep climbing, though. So I think there's a really good chance that this goes even higher. Sweeping the liquidity, all of the cells that joined the party here. So what I'm looking at is for the market to crack a little higher and then NASDAQ to get into this imbalance. I'm not going to be shorting NAS or anything like that anytime soon. I'm just kind of riding this movement to the upside. But cool. Guys, thanks for joining. I see that we've had just about 500 people on the stream. Appreciate you guys liking the stream and subscribing and joining the free community that's pinned up at the top. We'll be live again tomorrow. I'll give you guys an update. I'm going to be live for CPI. So I want to see if we have anything fun going on there. Anyways, I'll see you all on the next one. Take care, guys.